It was New Year's Eve in Central Park. The trees were glowing with holiday lights, and the air buzzed with laughter as families welcomed the new year. But on a bench near the frozen lake, a man sat alone. He wore a fancy coat, but his slouched shoulders gave him away. His name was James Whitmore, a 38-year-old tech CEO. He had everything money could buy, but none of the happiness he once had. Fireworks sparkled in the sky, but they meant nothing to him. He thought he wanted to be alone, but he was wrong. A small, sweet voice spoke. "You look sad, mister. Want to meet my mommy?" James looked down, surprised. Standing beside him was a tiny girl about 3 years old. Her blonde hair poked out of a worn knitted cap. Her socks didn't match, and she wore them over bare feet. She clutched a crumpled piece of bread, but her eyes sparkled with joy. "You look really sad," she said again, tilting her head. "My mommy always makes me smile when I'm sad. Want to meet her?" James blinked, surprised, and maybe even a little amused. "Your mommy, huh?" She nodded eagerly, dropping crumbs. "She's over there." The girl pointed to the edge of the park. A woman was crouched near a trash bin, going through leftover containers. Even from far away, she moved with grace. Her golden hair shimmered under the street lamp. "She's really pretty," she said proudly, "but she gets tired. We're looking for food tonight." James felt something shift in his chest. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lisa." "Does your mommy know you're talking to strangers?" "She says I shouldn't, but you looked like you needed a friend. I know what that feels like. I don't have any friends either." James paused, then slowly stood when Lisa reached for his hand. Her fingers were ice cold. "I'm James," he said. "Nice to meet you, James," she replied with a smile. Lisa led him through the park, past happy families taking selfies, children laughing, and lights twinkling in the trees. For the first time in months, James noticed what he'd been missing. This barefoot little girl had broken through a wall he didn't even know he had. When they reached the woman, she looked up and froze. She dropped a container into her bag and rushed toward them. "Lisa," she called, worried, "what did I say about wandering off?" She stopped when she saw James, tall, well-dressed, holding her daughter's hand. Her eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry if she bothered you. I keep telling her not to talk to strangers." James raised his hands gently. "She didn't bother me. She thought I looked lonely, and she was right." The woman kept Lisa close, still cautious. "She has a big heart," she said, her voice softer now. "That's easy to see," James replied, studying her face. Up close she looked younger, maybe 26, but worn down by life. Still, she had a calm strength. Even tired, she held herself with quiet dignity. "I'm James," he said. "She introduced us, but I'd really like to know the name of the woman who raised such a brave little girl." "Anna," she said, after a pause. "Nice to meet you, Anna." He looked from Lisa back to Anna. "Would you let me buy you both something warm to eat? There's a cafe nearby." Anna hesitated. "That's kind of you, but we're okay." "I know, but maybe I'm not." She paused, then slowly nodded. "Okay, just something small." "Can I get hot chocolate?" Lisa asked, lighting up. James smiled. "Absolutely." As they walked toward the cafe, something inside James shifted, just a little. But sometimes a small start changes everything. Steam curled from the cart in front of the cafe, and the smell of cocoa and fresh pastries filled the cold night air. James pointed to it as they reached the sidewalk. "Hot chocolate for Lisa, and anything you'd like," he said. "It's cold. Something warm might help." Anna looked at the cart, then back at him. He could see her thinking, not just about money,
but pride. After a moment, she gave a tiny nod. "Okay, just one cup," she said softly. "For her." James didn't argue. He went ahead and ordered. He came back with 2 cups of cocoa, steam rising from the lids. Lisa grabbed hers with both hands like it was a gift from a fairy tale. She sipped it carefully, her eyes glowing. "Careful, it's hot," Anna reminded her gently, brushing a strand of hair off her forehead. James handed the second cup to Anna. Her fingers were red from the cold, and she held it close like it was precious. She didn't drink it right away. She just stood there, warming her hands. "Do you live nearby?" James asked quietly. Anna hesitated. "We move around." "That must be hard," he said. She nodded. "It is, but that's life." James watched her. She always stayed close to Lisa, always a step behind her, like she was her shield. Even when Lisa spilled some cocoa on her coat, Anna didn't flinch. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll clean it later," she said calmly. James took a sip of his own cocoa, eyes still on Anna. She moved with quiet strength, not defeated, just tired, but still standing. She had no reason to be kind, no reason to trust him, but she thanked him like he had done something big, not just handed her cocoa. "Can I ask," he said carefully, "how long it's been like this, you two?" Anna looked down at Lisa, who was now sitting on the edge of a planter, swinging her legs. 3 years, she answered gently. "Since she was born." "Really?" James asked softly. Anna nodded. "Things got hard early. I was still in school when I found out I was pregnant." It's a long story." "I have time," James said with a kind look. Anna glanced at him. Her eyes were tired, but calm, honest. No bitterness, no blame, just truth. She stood tall even while holding so much. "I'll tell you sometime. Maybe," she said after a pause. James nodded. "Fair enough." They stood together in the cold, drinking cocoa, the park behind them glowing with holiday lights and the sounds of celebration. But here, in this small, quiet spot near a cafe cart, something else was happening. Something softer. Something real. James looked at Anna again, her face lit by the golden light. And in that moment, he realized this was the first real conversation he had had in years. As they sat in silence, an older man pushed a noisy cart full of cans down the path. His coat was full of holes, and he looked tired and hungry. He paused just a few steps away, staring at the half-eaten pastry in Lisa's hands. Before James could say a word, Anna stood up quietly and went to her bag. She pulled out a sandwich wrapped in foil, the one she had saved earlier. Without hesitation, she walked up to the man and gently offered it to him. "Merry Christmas," she said kindly, even though Christmas had passed days ago. The man gave her a quiet thank you and rolled his cart away into the night. Anna came back to the bench and sat down like nothing had happened. James stared at her, stunned. "That was your dinner," he said softly. She gave a small shrug. "He needed it more. We already had hot chocolate." She didn't say it like it was a big deal, just a simple truth. James watched her in awe. She gave without thinking, without expecting anything back. Even when the world had been so unfair to her, she still chose to be kind. Later, as Lisa started to get sleepy, Anna pulled out a worn-out children's book. The cover was faded and the edges were taped, but she held it with care. She opened it and began to read, not the real story on the page, but one she made up. In a big shiny city lived a little princess with no shoes but the biggest heart. she said softly. Lisa's eyes started to close as she listened. And one snowy night she met a sad man with a frozen heart. So she gave him a smile, and he started to feel warm again, little by little. James smiled, realizing who the characters were. He leaned back on the bench, heart full in a way he hadn't felt in years. He asked in a whisper, "Is that what she does every night?" Anna nodded. "She doesn't know how hard life really is. I want to keep it magical, while I still can." James stayed quiet, watching Anna untangle Lisa's curls with a small plastic comb. The comb was cracked and chipped, but she moved so gently, like it was something sacred. She looked up and caught James watching her. "I know what we look like," she said softly, "but she doesn't feel poor, not when we're together." James swallowed hard, a lump rising in his throat. He was struck by how easy it would have been for Anna to grow bitter, to shut the world out, but instead she chose love over and over again. People in James's world gave to charity when it looked good, when it came with tax benefits. But Anna gave with her hands, with her heart, with her food and her stories, because she knew what it felt like to need. And in that moment, James realized something else. He wasn't here to save her. She didn't need rescuing. She had already saved someone else, her daughter. And now, without even trying, she was saving him, too. The park was getting quiet now. Families started heading home, holding sleeping children in their arms. You could still hear a few pops of firecrackers far away. The cold night air felt sharper than before. James sat on the same bench beside Anna, where they had shared cocoa and stories earlier. Lisa was fast asleep, her tiny head resting in Anna's lap, her little fingers holding on to a worn blanket. Anna gently rubbed her daughter's back, slow and steady, like it was part of her heartbeat. James looked straight ahead, his face tense, his thoughts heavy. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "This used to be my favorite night of the year," he said quietly. Anna turned slightly toward him, waiting, but didn't say anything. "Every New Year's Eve, my wife and I would come to this park. We'd bring a blanket and a thermos of mulled wine, and just sit here, just us." He gave a short, sad laugh. "It was our little tradition. No parties, no noise, just peace." Anna kept listening, her face soft and open. "Her name was Rachel," he said, his eyes still on the dark trees. "She had this wild laugh, the kind that made strangers turn their heads. And she was strong, stronger than me in all the ways that mattered." His voice got quieter. "We were married for 7 years before we found out she had cancer, ovarian, stage 3. Anna's hand paused for just a moment on Lisa's back, then continued. "The first year we were hopeful. We fought hard. Doctors, trials, treatments. I spent money like crazy. Anything that gave us a chance." He swallowed hard. "But it came back worse, and Rachel, she got tired. She started preparing for the end." His voice cracked slightly. "She made me promise I'd keep living. I told her I would, but I didn't." Anna looked at him now, not with pity, but with quiet understanding. "I built a company. I made more money. I filled my days with meetings and deadlines. But inside, the day she died, I stopped living too." His voice fell to a whisper. "I was there at the end. I held her hand. She was only 36. The silence afterward felt heavy, like the whole world had gone still for a moment. James shut his eyes tightly, pressing his hands together like he was holding something inside. But the feeling grew too big. A single tear escaped and slid down his cheek. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I don't usually cry." Anna spoke gently. "You couldn't save her," she said softly. But she knew she was loved. That means everything. James turned to her, surprised. Her words touched something deep inside him, a part he had buried long ago. "You really think that's enough?" he asked, not angry, just broken. Anna looked down at Lisa and brushed her hair back gently. "Every night I wonder if I'm doing enough, sleeping on benches, asking for help, not having a home. What if it's hurting her? But then she looks at me like she's my whole world, and I realize love is enough. It's the one thing no one can take away from us." James looked at her, and this time he couldn't stop the tears. They came freely, no matter how many times he wiped them away. "I haven't cried since her funeral. Not once. I thought if I started, I'd never stop." Anna didn't say anything else. She simply moved a little closer beside him, careful not to wake Lisa, and let her shoulder rest lightly against his. No words, no pressure, just presence. And somehow it comforted James more than anything had in 2 whole years. They sat like that for a long time, 2 hurting souls sitting in silence, slowly beginning to heal. The city around them still celebrated, but their little corner of the park felt quiet and safe. And for the first time in what felt like forever, James let himself feel it all. The grief, the guilt, the sadness, and also something new. Hope.
The night had gotten even colder as they walked down Fifth Avenue together. The snow was soft, falling like tiny feathers. Store windows sparkled with winter decorations and glowing lights. Lisa walked between James and Anna, holding her mom's hand tightly. Her eyes were wide, taking in every twinkling tree and glittery window. Then suddenly, she stopped. They were standing in front of a fancy children's boutique. In the center of the display was a pink satin dress with puffy sleeves, lace edges, and tiny fake diamonds. It looked like it came straight out of a fairy tale. Lisa stared at it, completely still. Anna gently tugged her hand. "Come on, sweetheart, that's not for us." But Lisa didn't move. Her little eyes were locked on the dress. James knelt beside her. "What do you think, Princess?" he asked softly. Lisa whispered, "It's the most beautiful dress I've ever seen." Anna was already shaking her head. "She doesn't need it. We're fine." James stood up and looked at Anna kindly. "Sometimes it's not about what we need. It's about feeling special, even just for a moment." Anna looked at the dress again, then back at Lisa, who was still staring at it. James pointed to a different dress in the window, a simple cream-colored knit one. "It's not flashy, but it looks like it's waiting for someone who's been brave for a long time." Anna's eyes lingered on it. She bit her lip. Her hand moved a little, like she wanted to reach for it, but couldn't. I can't accept something like this," she said. "It's not about accepting, it's about being seen." Anna looked at him for a long moment. Something inside her slowly softened. Then, quietly, she nodded. Inside the boutique, it smelled like clean fabric and soft perfume. The clerk looked at them for a moment, especially Anna's coat, but didn't say anything. James helped Lisa lift the pink gown.
She held it to her chest and twirled, giggling like she'd been handed a piece of magic. Anna picked up the cream-colored dress. She held it gently, like it was something fragile. James noticed the way she looked at her reflection in the mirror, like she hadn't really seen herself in a long time. He stepped outside to wait as they changed. Then the doorbell jingled, and Anna stepped out first. James froze. The dress fit her perfectly, simple, soft, and beautiful. Her golden hair framed her face, and her posture held something new, confidence. Lisa followed, spinning in her pink gown, laughter bubbling out of her. In that moment, they didn't look like the same tired mother and child from the park. They looked glowing. And just then, the first firework of the new year burst above Central Park, gold and red filling the sky. More colors followed, blue, green, silver. Lisa gasped. Anna looked up. But James kept looking at them. They weren't just noticed tonight. They were finally visible. People passed by looking up at the fireworks, but James knew the most beautiful sight of the night was right in front of him. This wasn't just a kind gesture. It was the beginning of something deeper, something that felt exactly like home.
The night after New Year's, James booked a quiet room for Anna and Lisa at a small extended-stay hotel. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm, clean, and had a kitchenette. Most importantly, there was a real bed just for Lisa. As soon as she saw it, Lisa squealed and jumped right into it like it was made of clouds. Her giggles filled the room. Anna stood quietly by the door, holding the straps of her worn bag, unsure. James set the room key on the counter. "It's paid for a month," he said gently. "What comes after is up to you." Anna opened her mouth to speak, maybe to say no, but James raised a hand softly. No pressure, no strings, just a place to rest. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just rest." The next morning, James returned with coffee and bagels. Lisa danced around the kitchenette in her pajamas, waving a plastic spoon in the air like it was magic. Her giggles filled the room. Anna stood quietly by the door, holding the straps of her worn bag, unsure. James set the room key on the counter. "It's paid for a month," he said gently. "What comes after is up to you." Anna opened her mouth to speak, maybe to say no, but James raised a hand softly. No pressure, no strings, just a place to rest. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just rest." The next morning, James returned with coffee and bagels. Lisa danced around the kitchenette in her pajamas, waving a plastic spoon in the air like it was magic. Anna looked more rested than he'd ever seen her, but still, her smile carried a hint of caution. Over breakfast, James spoke gently. "There's a nursing program nearby, night classes. You once said you were in school." Anna blinked, surprised. "You looked into it?" James nodded. "I'll pay the tuition, if you still want it." She went quiet. "I never stopped wanting it. I just stopped believing it could ever happen." James smiled. "Well, maybe now it can." The next week, Anna enrolled. She insisted on working part-time, not wanting to depend completely on James. So he offered her a cleaning job at one of his smaller offices. Quiet, respectful, with kind staff. She agreed. 3 nights a week she cleaned offices while Lisa colored quietly or watched cartoons on James's old iPod. On weekends, James took Lisa to the park so Anna could study. He never tried to rescue her. He just showed up. He brought her soup when she was tired, helped her review flashcards, made sock puppets with Lisa to keep her laughing. They slowly found a rhythm. Each Thursday, James invited them to his apartment. It used to feel cold and empty. Now it felt alive. They made simple meals together. Lisa loved helping James stir the pot like it was magic. Anna read her notes at the table while dinner cooked. One Thursday, James arrived a little early with groceries. The door was slightly open. He knocked, then stepped inside. The TV was off. Lisa was asleep on the couch, a book resting on her chest. Anna sat at the small table, highlighter in hand, focused on her binder. A cold cup of tea sat untouched nearby. She didn't even see him at first. James paused in the doorway watching her. She looked so focused, so steady, so determined. She didn't need charity. She was building something, something of her own. When she finally looked up and saw him, she smiled, tired but real. "You're early," she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. "I thought I'd help with dinner. Maybe quiz you while we cook." She grinned. "Deal." They moved through the kitchen together, cooking side by side. It felt natural, easy even, peaceful. From the couch, Lisa stirred. "Mommy, don't forget my story." Anna wiped her hands and knelt by her daughter. "I never forget," she whispered, kissing Lisa's forehead. James stood back and watched them. Something loosened in his chest. He had thought parts of himself were gone forever, lost to grief. But now, here they were. A woman fighting for her future. A child thriving. A man learning to feel again. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. But it was real. And for the first time in years, James was ready for whatever came next.
It was a Tuesday night when James felt something wasn't right. He had grown used to their rhythm. Anna usually texted after class. Sometimes she sent a question about her lectures. Other times, a photo of Lisa drawing doodles in the margins of her workbook. But tonight, nothing. No message, no reply. At first, he told himself not to overthink it. Maybe Anna was tired. Maybe Lisa needed extra cuddles. But as the hours passed, that quiet feeling in his chest turned into worry. By 9 p.m., James was in his car driving across town. The streets were slick with rain. Streetlights cast long reflections on the pavement. He reached the extended stay hotel and rushed up the stairs, 2 steps at a time. He knocked on the door, gently at first. No answer. Then harder. Finally, the door creaked open. Anna stood there, her hair pulled into a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes. From inside, James heard soft coughing. "Anna," James said, surprised. "You didn't have to come." "You missed class," he said, stepping inside. "I was worried." She stepped back to let him in. Lisa was curled up on the bed, cheeks red with fever. A damp washcloth lay across her forehead. Nearby, James saw a half-finished bottle of children's medicine, a thermometer, and an open textbook with flashcards spread out beside it. "She started feeling sick last night," Anna explained, fixing the blanket around Lisa. "The fever came this morning. I didn't want to bother you." James knelt by the bed, brushing Lisa's hair gently with his fingers. "Is she okay?" "Just a cold," Anna said softly. "I've been watching her fever. It's already going down." James looked around. On the table sat a sandwich, untouched. Next to it, her study notes. "You were still studying?" he asked. Anna gave a small, tired shrug. "I have an exam Thursday. I can't afford to fall behind." James looked at her. The exhaustion in her face, the way her hand never left Lisa's back, her posture still straight, still steady. "Why do you push yourself so hard?" he asked her softly. Anna looked at him, a little startled. Then her eyes went to Lisa. Because she believes in me. She thinks I can do anything. And if I give up now, I'd be proving the world right instead of her. James felt something shift deep inside. He had always admired Anna for her strength, her grace, her quiet kindness. But right now, watching her care for her sick daughter with one hand and clutch study notes in the other, he understood something new. It wasn't just admiration, it was love. He didn't love her because she needed saving. He loved her because she never stopped fighting, because she kept going, day after day, no matter how tired, no matter how hard. He reached out and gently took the flashcards from her hand. He said, "Let me help." Anna looked up at him, truly looked. Her eyes softened, not in surprise, but in understanding. She nodded. And in that quiet hotel room, surrounded by the hum of the city and the sound of a sleeping child, something unspoken passed between them. This wasn't just Anna's story anymore. It was his too, and he wasn't going to walk away.
1 year later, the city was glowing with soft winter lights. Snowflakes drifted through the air. Every window shimmered with gold, and music floated through the streets. It was New Year's Eve again, but this time it felt completely different. This time it felt like coming home. James stood in the doorway of his brownstone, smiling as he watched the two people who had changed his world. Anna walked in first, brushing snow from her coat. Her cheeks were rosy from the cold, and she looked tired but happy. She wore pale blue scrubs and a hospital badge that read, Anna Collins, RN. Those 3 letters had taken everything. Sleepless nights, long study hours, hard work, but she had done it. Right behind her, Lisa skipped into the room, wearing a sparkly pink dress. She held up a homemade card with big, glittery letters. "Look what I made!" she shouted. James knelt beside her. The card said, "Our first real New Year's together." His throat tightened. "It's perfect," he said, pulling her into a hug. "Just like you." Anna smiled from the kitchen, already unpacking groceries he'd brought earlier. It wasn't a fancy meal, just pasta, garlic bread, and a small chocolate cake covered in way too many sprinkles. But it smelled like home. There was laughter in the air. Lisa's giggles as she twirled, Anna humming as she stirred the sauce, the soft clink of plates being set on the table. It was the kind of joy James hadn't felt in years. Not loud or dramatic, but real. When dinner was ready, they sat together, passing dishes, telling stories. Their hands brushed as they reached for the salad. It felt familiar, warm, like they always belonged like this. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Lisa curled up under a blanket beside James. Anna lit candles by the window. The fireplace crackled gently, filling the room with golden light. As the final minutes of the year ticked away, James walked to Anna. She stood watching the snow fall through the frosted glass. He took her hand and turned her toward him. "You didn't just save her, you saved me." Anna's eyes shimmered. She placed her hand on his chest. "I think we saved each other." He leaned in and kissed her slowly, a kiss filled with quiet thanks and deep love. From the couch, Lisa squealed, "Ew, kissing!" then burst into laughter. They all laughed, the kind of laughter that comes from peace. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. They sat together on the couch, all 3 wrapped under one blanket. James had his arm around Anna. Lisa snuggled into his other side. 5, 4. Outside, fireworks lit up the sky in red and silver. 3, 2,
1. Happy New Year, Lisa yelled, tossing bits of homemade confetti into the air. Anna looked at James, eyes glowing. You ready for a new beginning? James smiled, full of love. I already got mine. In that living room, with laughter, love, and peace all around them, they weren't strangers anymore. They weren't lost souls. They were a family. Not perfect, but real. And that was more than enough.